2000. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed sent Zacharias Moussaoui to Malaysia for flight training, but he couldn't find a school he liked. And instead, he got involved in other terrorist operations there. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed later instructed him to travel to London in October. Ramzi bin al-Shibh visited him in December. On February 23rd, 2001, Zacharias Moussaoui went to the United States and attended flight school in Oklahoma and Minnesota, where he didn't perform very well. He was arrested on August 16, 2001, and charged with an immigration violation after a flight instructor became suspicious and reported him. Given Moussaoui's unimpressive track record, al-Qaeda's leaders were happy when a better candidate for fourth pilot presented himself in Afghanistan in 2000. Among the new recruits at Al Farouk training camp was a man who was already a trained pilot, Hani Hanjour. Born in Saudi Arabia, in 1991, Hanjour had studied English at the University of Arizona. He returned to Saudi Arabia and in 1996 moved back to the United States to learn how to fly, obtaining a private pilot's license in 1997 and then a commercial pilot certificate. After that, he went back to Saudi Arabia to find work. When bin Laden and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed discovered that they had a trained pilot in one of their camps on joining al-Qaeda, new recruits were asked if they had any specific skills. They enlisted him. He accepted the mission readily. It was considered an honor for a new recruit to be handpicked by Osama bin Laden himself. After teaching Hani Hanjour the code words he needed to know, al-Qaeda's leaders instructed him to procure a visa for travel to the United States. Tawfiq bin Attash, also known as Khalad, explained to him how to get in touch with Nawaf al-Hazmi once he was in the United States. On June 20th, 2000, he returned to Saudi Arabia, and on September 25th, he received a U.S. visa. This group of would-be pilots joined the ranks of those already selected by Osama bin Laden to be part of the operation. Khalid al-Mihdhar, Nawaf al-Hazmi, and Khalad. Born in Mecca, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar were Saudis, and they had no problem getting U.S. visas. Khalad's visa application, however, was rejected because he was a Yemeni. Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi were to be among the muscle hijackers, those whose task it would be to overwhelm the crew and any troublesome passengers. They were sent with other hijackers to al-Qaeda's Mes Ainak camp in Afghanistan, where they underwent physical fitness training and received instruction in combat and weapons. They were also given the best available food in order to keep them healthy and boost their spirits. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed personally helped train both the pilot and the non-pilot hijackers, teaching them how to hide knives in their bags and how to slit passengers' throats. He made them practice slitting the throats of goats, sheep, and camels. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and others briefed them about the United States at a facility named by many involved the House of Martyrs. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed nicknamed it the House of Ghamdis because of a few of the hijackers were from the Ghamdi tribe. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed taught them English phrases, showed them how to read phone books and make reservations, and also had them read aviation magazines and watch movies with hijacking scenes. Among the phrases taught were get down, don't move, stay in your seat, and if anyone moves, I'll kill you. After the training, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar traveled to Kuala Lumpur, where a 9/11 summit took place. From there, the two men departed for Bangkok with Khalad. Upon Nibris and Fahad al-Quso's delivery to Khalad of the $36,000 in cash, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi purchased first-class tickets to Los Angeles, leaving Bangkok on January 15, 2000. Their fellow Mosul hijackers arrived in the United States in the summer of 2001. Most were Saudis, 12 of the first 13, and most were unemployed, unmarried, and uneducated. They had applied for visas in Saudi Arabia, and once those applications were approved, they had traveled to Afghanistan for training. Mohammed Atta and Marwan al-Shehi coordinated their arrival in the United States, found them places to stay, and settled them in. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's nephew, Omar al-Baluchi, and Mustafa al-Hawsawi, an al-Qaeda financial operative, helped coordinate their travel and money both before departure and once they were in the United States. Upon arrival, the hijackers were given Baluchi's or Hawsawi's number. Also, promptly on arrival, they opened bank accounts and deposited the money they had brought with them. Each hijacker had been given $6,000 to $8,000 by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed or Mustafa al-Hawsawi, and had been told to keep a few $1,000s for himself and to give the rest to Mohammed Atta. On August 4, 2001, an al-Qaeda member named Mohammed al-Qahtani landed in Orlando, Florida on Virginia Atlantic Airlines Flight 15, but he was refused entry by a U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service agent and shipped out of the United States on a later flight. As he was departing, he vowed, "I'll be back." On August 28, 2001, Omar al-Baluchi applied for a one-week travel to the United States beginning September 4, 2001. The visa would expire on September 11th. Baluchi's request was denied. Mohammed Atta's biggest challenge was finding 4 flights that would be in the air at the same time on the same day, and on planes that Marwan al-Shehi, Ziad Jarrah, and Hani Hanjour and himself knew how to fly. He ran a number of searches on Travelocity and found that everything matched up on September 11, 2001. Once that was established, he phoned Ramzi bin al-Shibh to give him the message. Once the date was set, the hijackers went out to enjoy their last days alive. Some attended strip joints. Others went to bars and got drunk. Mohammed Atta was spotted during a series of shots. While it might seem surprising that these men, who were later proclaimed by al-Qaeda to be religious martyrs, were debasing themselves, the reality is that most weren't truly religious. At best, they only had a superficial knowledge of Islam, and most were either simple people swayed by convincing recruiters or macho individuals looking for a way to look tough and impress friends. But even while on missions, they never fully left their old lifestyles behind. Ziad Jarrah even traveled back to Germany a few times to hook up with his girlfriend. This activity was common across al-Qaeda. Al-Nashiri, the mastermind of the USS Cole bombing, for example, at one point lived with a prostitute in Dubai. In anticipation of the attack, and with the knowledge that the United States would likely strike back hard, Osama bin Laden moved continuously from Kabul to coast to Jalalabad with his most trusted aides. None of the bodyguards, not even Salim Hamdan, the driver, ever knew the destination of the convoy. A minute or so before they were about to leave, bin Laden would tell them. Sometimes bin Laden would order a change of direction mid-trip. At times, he would just stop en route and order them to make camp. At times, he himself had no idea where they would end up. He would camp in the middle of nowhere so he could not be easily found. They wouldn't even know their exact coordinates. These procedures made bin Laden feel safer. In Kabul, bin Laden spent a lot of time in the homes of Abu al-Qadir al-Masri and Mohammed Saleh, former Egyptian Islamic Jihad Shura Council members and close associates of Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri. They were the 2 Egyptian Islamic Jihad leaders who joined the al-Qaeda Shura Council following the March 2001 official merger of Mohammed Atta and Marwan al-Shehi and Egyptian Islamic Jihad. After the merger, bin Laden and Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri went around visiting al-Qaeda training camps and facilities, accompanied by Abu Hafs al-Masri, who had become the number 3 in the group. Al-Zawahiri had taken the number 2 spot, and a Kuwaiti named Salman Abu Gaith, whose importance in the group had been steadily growing, had become the spokesman for the organization. Later, all four appeared in al-Qaeda's propaganda videos. The name al-Qaeda was officially changed to al-Qaeda al-Jihad, a combining of the names of al-Qaeda and Egyptian Islamic Jihad. The name change was purely a formality, and the organization is still commonly known as al-Qaeda. On September 11, 2001, Osama bin Laden seemed especially excitable to those who knew him. Only a few members of his entourage knew why. Late in the afternoon, bin Laden told Ali al-Bahul to switch on a satellite in his media van so they could watch the news. Bahul tried but couldn't get any reception. Bin Laden told him instead to get the news on the radio. They alternated between channels. First the BBC, then Voice of America, till they got a consistent signal. For about 45 minutes, they listened to regular news reports. Finally, a news flash came in. At 8:46 a.m. in the United States, a plane had hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The report said it seemed to have been an accident. Bin Laden knew that American Airlines Flight 11, scheduled to fly from Logan International Airport in Boston to Los Angeles International Airport, had been successfully hijacked by Mohammed Atta, Abdulaziz al-Amari, Walid al-Sheri, Wael al-Sheri, and Satam al-Suskami. Before the plane crashed, a flight attendant had reported that a passenger had been stabbed and that it was hard for him to breathe, leading investigators to later suspect that mace had been used, but this report didn't get through till later. Bin Laden smiled, and the al-Qaeda members with him started celebrating. Allahu Akbar. They shouted, firing their AK-47s into the air. Most were simply happy that the Great Snake, the United States, had been hit. But based on bin Laden's smile and the lack of surprise on his face, they began to suspect that this had been an al-Qaeda plot. Calm down. Wait a minute, there is more, bin Laden said, raising his hand to silence the celebrants. Here was confirmation of their suspicions. They were silent, wondering what was next. Only a few senior al-Qaeda members knew what to expect. Another news flash came at 9:03 a.m. A second plane had hit the South Tower of the World Trade Center. This was no longer looking like an accident, the newscaster said. The two most visible skyscrapers in New York City were going up in smoke. People were trapped inside and jumping out windows. Bin Laden's smile broadened. American Airlines Flight 170 Sky, scheduled to fly from Logan International Airport to Los Angeles International Airport, had been successfully hijacked by Marwan al-Shehi, Fayez Bani Hamad, Hamza al-Ghamdi, Ahmed al-Ghamdi, and Mohand al-Sheri. Bin Laden knew all the hijackers personally. He had approved their selection and helped guide their training. He was elated. Once again, the al-Qaeda members started shouting and firing into the air. Calm down. Again, there was more, bin Laden said. The next breaking news flash said that a plane had hit the western side of the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. It was beginning to look like a coordinated attack, the announcer said. This can't be a coincidence. What's going on? Someone asked. Bin Laden grinned. American Airlines Flight 77 flying from Washington Dulles International Airport to Los Angeles International Airport was manned by Hani Hanjour, Nawaf al-Hazmi, Khalid al-Mihdhar, Majid Makid, and Salem al-Hazmi, had succeeded in its mission. The celebrations again started, and once again bin Laden told them to hold off. There is more. The news of a fourth plane came at 10:03 a.m. United Airlines Flight 93 traveling from Newark International Airport in New Jersey to San Francisco International Airport crashed in a field in Stony Creek Township, Pennsylvania. There had been a Mayday message at 9:28 a.m., and at 9:31, one of the hijackers had announced that he had a bomb. This later led to investigators to suspect that the hijackers had used fake bombs. Some passengers who used their cell phones to make calls reported that the hijackers wore explosives on their belts. Bin Laden was disappointed. He told his followers that the Americans must have shot the plane down. Ziad Jarrah, Ahmed al-Nami, Ahmed al-Haznawi, and Saeed al-Ghamdi did not reach their target. But given the success of the first three planes, bin Laden's disappointment didn't last long. The al-Qaeda's leader announced that they would head to Mohammed Saleh's house for a proper celebration. In one of the cars, a pickup truck that Salim Hamdan was driving, bin Laden and Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri sat together in the back and discussed the operation. If the Americans hadn't shot that plane, it could have hit that big dome, bin Laden told al-Zawahiri, referring to the capital. At Saleh's house, the celebration began. Many of al-Qaeda's top leaders were present. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed came to the house and briefed those present on the operation. He explained the background and training involved and announced the names of the martyrs. Many of those present who knew the hijackers felt proud of their association with them. May God bless Mukhtar for this great work, said bin Laden, using a nickname for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Bin Laden then asked Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to travel to Kandahar to brief Abu Hafs al-Masri. Because of back problems, he had been able to leave Kandahar when everyone else had been evacuated. Driving along the rugged roads would have been too painful. Bin Laden then ended the celebration and told his convoy to head toward coast.